and thank you for being here this Monday morning and for us to continue. Look, it's a crazy morning in the sense that people are trying to get where they need to go and nobody's been able to do that. Well, very few people have been able to. The public system is, transport of a public nature has been shut down completely because the operators have said that the fuel prices are too high. Right now, they're applying an almost 150% increase to certain transport charges, transport rates, and people cannot do it. It's not a matter of can we try? People cannot do it. And even for folks who are trying to get a vehicle to get from point A to point B this morning are unable to do that because there are just no vehicles. And they said, we want to force a conversation whereby people talk to us about what is actually going on. Fuel prices were hiked. We had diesel going up by 42 shillings. We had fuel going up by, 46 shillings and fuel going up by about 40 shillings. It doesn't look good at all. And the question is, did this have to happen? We're having a conversation this morning and we're talking with you. Dear Mr. President, no philosophy here. Fuel prices are too high. It's a statement and it's not a plea. It's not a beg. It's a statement. Dear Mr. President, the fuel prices are too high. Oftentimes we ask ourselves in terms of solutions, what should the solutions be? Well, the MP for Kihara, Ndende Nyoro, has said there are solutions to this. There are ways in which you can actually have this done. We're going to listen to a couple of the things that he said. But before and after we do that, we're going to take a snapshot of what's going around the city and we'll hear from you and indeed around the country, and we'll hear from you at some point. It's not a statement of plea. It's not a beg. Dear Mr. President, the fuel prices are too high.
The drastic fuel increment in terms of prices will hurt the economy of Kenya to tunes of hundreds of billions. But the amount we need to bring down the fuel prices is not even a fraction of that. It is too minute. And therefore, I believe that we should be looking at seeing how we can reduce the fuel prices now, so that we arrest many other issues, including inflationary pressures, that will be inevitable. And this is the proposal that I have, and which is easy. One, the amount Kenyans pay at the pump for distribution and margins of importers of fuel and retailers and wholesalers is around 22 shillings. I'm proposing that we reduce by 4 shillings. Wakipata shilingi 18 hawatafuga biashara. Kila mtu sasa lazima akaze mshipi. The second thing is that we must reduce our VAT further from the current 8% to 0. In the short term, we must exempt fuel products from VAT. And the third one is that we must do away with the road maintenance levy fund, Kenya shilling 7, that was added in the year 2024 by this government. I have gone further and tabulated the amount of money that Kenyans are going to save. And if we do those measures immediately, the fuel prices in terms of pump prices in Kenya will climb down to both of them below 190 shillings. That is diesel and petrol. Around 186 shillings for super petrol and 189 shillings for diesel. These issues, some of them need some involvement of Parliament. And it is for that reason that I have already written to the Clerk of the National Assembly of my intention to amend the VAT Act so that we exempt especially super petrol, diesel, and kerosene from VAT, and consequently make all those products VAT exempt and move them to the first schedule. The other thing is that I've already written to the National Assembly on the intention of amending the road maintenance levy fund by abolishing the 7 shillings that was added in the year 2024. Again, as I said before, this will give reprieve to Kenyans that the current diesel and super petrol prices should come down to around to below 190 for a liter of either. The other thing that maybe it is important for me to highlight, which is building up to that price, is also the subsidy. Diesel, as you saw in the circular, the added cost is higher. And for those prices to come to the ranges I'm talking about, we must also provision 5 billion Kenya shillings from the Fuel Stabilization Fund so that we reduce diesel by around 24 shillings. That is why the math is coming to around 189 for diesel. All those measures will stabilize our economy in terms of not have a very erratic inflationary pressures. And also we are going to have some stability in the medium and long term.
So he said it. Oftentimes he's saying, well, don't just castigate, then talk about the issues that could actually be brought about that will solve the problem. And there he's told you, he's done the math. And then he said there are ways to actually bring this down. He's talked about the road maintenance levy fund, reducing that amount by about 7 bob. You talked about removing VAT on super petrol and diesel and kerosene. We know that kerosene remains unchanged in the latest EPRA announcements, but that there are ways in which this can actually be brought down. He's also talked about reducing the amount to pay at the pump from 22 shillings to 18 shillings. And if you did all of that, combine these numbers that he's talked about, which, by the way, people would still then be able to make their money if that's what they were after, that you could actually see fuel with the same parameters brought down to below 190 shillings. Answers given. So you're going to ask the question in terms of who is where with the issues that we have this morning, right? And are likely, if EPRA announcements remain this way for the next, I don't know, many days until the 14th of June, that there are ways in which you can actually sort this out. It can come down to 190. The question is, do you have an appetite to do so? Well, if that appetite is not showing, it's definitely showing on the streets this morning. And this is not just in Nairobi, this is around the country. But we're going to start in the CBD this morning, where Clement Modachi is on with us, is our reporter, and he's going to patch in with us in just a minute to tell us what it looks like on a Monday morning when folks should be all over the place, basically going where they need to go. They're not. Clement, good morning. Hello, Clement, good morning. Okay, I don't know if he can hear us or if we're going to be connected with him in just a bit, but we're trying to get in touch with him to then be able to give us an update about what's happening in the CBD of Nairobi. And we'll make our way around the country today just to then be able to hear what the current situation is. But we'll hear from more people as we do today. We know that a lot of schools are closed. Children are not in school. There were a lot of announcements that were sent last evening to let parents know that schools would be temporarily closed because of the situation. So remember, it's not just school buses trying to get to school. It's the people who are going to operate those buses who will not be able to get to school, because we know that drivers don't take buses home. It's the staff who show up at school to then be able to make things happen, that have to use public transport at one time or another, that are not going to be able to get there. It's the teachers. It's really people. We don't realize just how many people use PSVs to get to work every day. And it's also people who can get there but will use public transport to get home. So schools are closed. That's not going to happen. People who are going to work in different sectors, whether you call them essential staff or non-essential staff, will not be able to do this because of the situation on the roads yet again. And we're seeing streets that would normally be a beehive of activity on a Monday morning that are like ghost streets today. Because why? People have said we are not going to operate these vehicles when we're having to charge people 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times what they would normally pay. Number one, we are not able to buy this fuel for almost 50 shillings more than what we bought it for just a couple of days ago, because we have to transfer that cost to the end user. And the end user in this case is not able to pay for that. That's the situation in which we find ourselves this morning, folks. So the question continues to be, from where we are, how are you faring this morning? We want to hear from you as well. We'll take your calls, but at the same time, we want to get an update about what's happening in different areas. We know that Kitangela at this point might seem a little bit iffy because we see that police presence has been introduced here as well. In terms of keeping folks who may likely protest at bay. So we want to get in touch with our reporters at some point, but we'll also hear from you. Do let us know what is happening in your neck of the woods. And we'll do that in just a minute. I'm just going to get a word from Evelyn as soon as I can have it in terms of who we have on the line. But we'll also hear from you this morning. Like I said, have you tried to get to work? Folks are saying, I want to walk. If I have to walk, let me walk. And then so I can walk to work and come back. Is it possible that people are not understanding of the situation and are asking you to show up at work no matter what you have to do to get there? This is not a fun situation, but it's the one that we've dealt with this morning, basically. So to hear from you this morning is what we'd love to do. We'll do that in just a minute as we get updates about what's going on. We'll also take some views from what's happening in Kitangela. I think we have Clement on the line now. Hello, Clement. Good morning. No? Yes? Is she shaking her head? I don't know what's going on there. Okay. So the situation that we look at it now is that we heard from other updates previously. Tell us also on our socials on YouTube, Facebook, and on X what's going on where you are. Talk to us about the situation. If you're holed up at home and not being able to move, if you're having to work from home because of this, just so that you understand, it's that folks are not being able to move with public transport this morning because of the fact that they've said, well, we're going to down our tools. We're not putting vehicles on the road because the fuel costs are just too high. Dear Mr. President, it's not a plea. It's not a conversation about whether somebody thinks it good or not. The fuel costs are too high, and we know that it's going to affect every sector of the society, whether we're looking at industry, whether we're looking at school. That's clear from this morning. Folks being able to get to work, the public service industry, people are not going to get to work today. I dare say that even people who are in the public service will not be able to move this morning. And we're looking at 9:20 on a Monday morning. Doesn't look too exciting in terms of what will happen here. So we're taking your views. We're taking your experiences this morning. So do talk to us about what essentially this looks like in your neck of the woods. All right. So we saw this morning that in Kitangela, roads are empty. The vehicles are not on the road. PSVs are not functioning. We've heard from different parts, from South B to South C, off of Mombasa Road, where public service vehicles are not moving. And there we have it. Just some pictures that we're seeing now. People in the streets, and this happens to be Kitangela from earlier on, where folks are now just kind of milling around in the streets, and we're asking questions in terms of then what is going to happen, then moving. All right, so we have an update from Kitangela. Vera Mora is on the line, actually from what she was able to share with us earlier in a bit.
Having their field day here and, constantly saying that they have to protest in order for the fuel prices to come down, as indicated earlier. I spoke to a few youths earlier on, and what they were saying is that what they're protesting about is the fuel prices. Food commodities are very high. Transport is actually very expensive. I'll show you the far end where we have buses actually parked all the way, and also commuters from this side can also not continue with their businesses. A lot of circles actually are grounded, have grounded their vehicles, and nobody is moving from this side to the other side. Allow me to say that we have actually been barred by the youth from covering them for the fear of being victimized by, the government if they are seen on camera protesting, and that is why we are far away to this area. But so far, the Kitangela police station is actually a few meters from here, but no police officers have actually come out to quench the whatever is happening on the road. Aseto, allow me to also say that this protest began at 7 a.m. in the morning up to now, and no police have come so far. As I mentioned earlier, this is the Kitangela-Namanga highway. It has been chaotic. No vehicles allowed to move in or out. And this is actually the road that connects Machakos County and all the way to Nairobi County. We will be going ahead to Mlolongo, where we have the way bridge, to see if any activities are actually ongoing. But at the moment, we cannot move back to Kitangela, or rather into Kajiado County, because of the many roadblocks that the youths have actually put up using the bonfires that they have lit. As I said, we have actually been barred by the youths from approaching them because they are afraid of being victimized of organizing the protest. Allow me to give you a view of what is happening on the other side. I hope my camera person can give you the right photos or images that are coming from Kajiado County. This is the border in the EPZ road heading to Kitangela town and Kajiado, to be more precise, from Kitangela, the Mlolongo Highway. Aseto, what has happened here since morning is what the youths have called protests to tell the government that they need to lower the prices of fuel, and that includes diesel and petrol, which have surged very high in the historic record of Kenya. Youths have said they will be out here until the president, or rather the authorities, address them to tell them the way forward, because now they cannot afford essential commodities. Earlier on at around 6 a.m. I was at Kitangela market, and a few lorries were there parked, and nobody was actually offloading or loading the items because the market is equally closed. And the shops in Kitangela are equally closed. We have seen Kitangela town in previous protests, how things usually erupt into being chaotic scenes, youths looting their shops. And that is why perhaps most of the shop owners and business operators opted to put their shops closed rather than opening on such a specific day. Aseto, I will be coming back to you with more details of what happens, but so far those are the live scenes from Kitangela town, and this is actually the border of Machakos County and Kajiado County. Back to you, Aseto.
All right, we're seeing that those are pictures shared on KTN with Vera Mora as she tells us what's going on in Kitangela. That's the place to watch during the day. But we're going to cross over to the CBD at this point and hear from Mordecai Okumu, who is in the CBD, to let us know what's going on there. Mordecai, good morning.
Good morning, Du.
How are you doing, man?
I'm doing fine. I'm coming to you live from Ambassador, right at the heart of Nairobi Central Business District, Ambassador Bus Terminus. And what we're able to currently see or witness is there's only a single city shuttle bus that always flies the Eastland route, and that is unusual, as this is always a busy bus terminus. And what is happening currently on my other side, just near Nairobi Archives, is that a few youths are trying to group to protest over the rise in cost of fuel, and a few whom we have spoken to here in town, including border operators, are saying that the fuel hike has become untenable, and that as the protest by Matatu and motorist associations for the transport sector alliances takes effect, they're arguing that it is time the government listens to them. And our spot check across the CBD today, early in the morning, we have been able to establish empty bus terminals and matatu stages as commuters remain stranded. This follows a directive by the Matatu Transport Operators Alliances that issued a directive yesterday evening saying that they will not operate today, and that their members were supposed to block all roads just to protest the government to reduce the high fuel prices that they're saying have become outrageous. These as well, we have as well established police. The police are patrolling in town, some in horses, others in vehicles, others as well are patrolling on foot with their vehicles stations. We are able to witness about two at Kenya Archives with the police just trying to monitor the situation to ensure that the CBD remains calm. Though as of now, the streets are largely, in Nairobi CBD, the streets are largely empty, and commuters are stranded. Some we have spoken to who came to town to pick their parcels, some to pick their goods, and they're saying they are not able to get to their destinations as there are no buses. We're only able to see a few private vehicles around, and that is so far the situation in town as well. Shops are likely empty, shops are likely empty, and this can be attributed to people failing to get to town. This is an unusual happening or occasion, especially on a Monday, that many can equate to a ghost town. And that is the situation currently as of now. Any question from you, Lou?
Yes, Okumu, let me ask you, are folks looking like they want to stay in town if they can get a vehicle? Are they waiting, or are we seeing folks leaving? And if they're leaving, how are they doing that?
Okay, some are living on foot, but likely many people are stranded. Some are seated across many places. Commuters are just stranded. They're trying to just look at perhaps any means. Some are using the border, and that is likely how the situation is in town. Though it is not a usual Monday in Nairobi's usual busy CBD.
That's all understood. It's likely that there might be a change later, but we want to thank you so much, Okumu, for giving us that update at this time to then be able to see how it operates, or rather opens up later on in the day. But Asante for sharing that with us this morning. And, from where you are, brother, keep safe. We'll talk and update in a bit.
Thank you.
Asante. Well, this is what it looks like. That's in the CBD this morning, and we'll take a look at what may be happening in other parts of the country at this moment. We'll probably get a snapshot from what's going on in different parts in just a while, and we'll also hear from you on 0732142650, 0732142653, to then be able to understand where were you this morning. I see a lot of questions, a lot of comments saying that I had a class this morning. I was supposed to teach. I have business to attend to, but I can't get there where I'm going. And this is the reality for the majority of people. Let me tell you, if you have a vehicle and you're driving yourself somewhere, you're in the minority. We might think that it's people on the cars. No, the people who depend on the public service vehicles to get where they're going are the folks. A lot of us who this morning are stranded, and in terms of how you're going to get home, that becomes the question. And that it looks like it's a bit of a volatile situation this morning in certain parts of the city in terms of who's going to then be able to get where, but not just in Nairobi, in other parts. I mean, this is news coming to us from Mombasa, coming in from Nyeri, coming in from Kisumu, in terms of who is going where. And that, dear Mr. President, the cry this morning is that the fuel prices are too high and that something has to be done about it. In this interim, it's not about the politics. It's let's major in the minors and say that in this case, the minor being the pockets of Kenyans, there is very little shilling left to then be able to fuel. And I'm not necessarily just talking about the liquid in the tank. So there's very little left to then be able to go about. In some cases, there's nothing left at all. And so those are the questions that we're asking this morning. Not asking really, but those are the statements that we're making this morning, that folks have woken up to a very difficult Monday morning in terms of what it looks like on the streets today, and to be able to ask the questions about what will happen in the course of today. It's very clear, again, that schools have been shut down. For today, there's temporary closure of schools because who's going to get where they're going to then be able to deliver education. And so that's the Monday morning that we wake up to. We're taking your calls this morning again, 0732 142 650, 0732 142 653, to then be able to hear from you in terms of what your situation is this morning. We're taking your comments as well on our socials, on Facebook, YouTube, and on X, to then be able to understand from your point of view what exactly may be going on. And so even as you do, if you have to be home this morning, we're going to ask you to please be very, very careful, that there's a likelihood that we might have, some movement here and there that may not be too exciting. So then be very careful no matter what it is that you have to then deal with this morning. Let's also hear from you directly in terms of what might be happening in your little space, or rather in this case, in your big space. And then we'll be able to share that as we get it. So we'll take a quick break now. We'll take a look at what's happening in the skies. Will the rain come down? We don't know. But then to be able to also get a look at what's happening with weather and traffic, and then we'll come back from that in a little bit. Sawa. All right. Don't forget that you can talk to us. Let us know. This is the Situation Room. As we hear from some of our reporters on the streets this morning, and then to be able to get a look into that. And we've been dealing with many hours of folks being unable to get where they're going this morning because of the crippled transport situation in the country. And this is due to the increase in petrol and diesel that happened on the morning of the 15th of May. That's just 3 days ago. And there was a promise that this morning there would be a total shutdown of transport. And that was not just a promise, but it was actually acted on. And I saw a funny comment this morning that you can imagine if other promises that were promised were actually acted on. I mean, and just as on a light note there, but the situation is extremely heavy this morning. And I just saw a comment now and I said to myself, oh my goodness, I didn't realize this. For folks who are going to hospital this morning, who are using public service vehicles, what happens to them? Are they walking with a condition? And this is the question that we're asking this morning. Well, we're going to cross over at this point to get a bit of a situation report as to what is happening. And we're going to then get on to Nakuru. Ken Gashuri is our reporter, and he's in Nakuru this morning. Ken, good morning. Hello, Ken. Good morning.
Yeah, it's a good morning here in Nakuru. We are seeing transport being paralyzed because of the ongoing protest by public transport vehicle operators. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean,
as of now,
yeah. What's happening right now? We seeing other parts of the country are at a total standstill. There are folks who are outside trying to get a public service vehicle. What exactly is the situation in Nakuru this morning?
Well, just a few roads have already been blocked so that they have tried to stop movement of vehicles. But most of the matatu owners and also those in heavy commercial transport business have kept their vehicles away, maybe at their various parking lots. Mm-hmm. So within the town, there are no vehicles that are moving around. And at the moment, I'm at the Nakuru bus terminus, which is very deserted. We have like around 6 matatus that are still here but empty. We have no drivers, we have no passengers. They're just deserted here. And within the bus terminus, which is now empty, the local youth have converted it into a pitch, and they're just playing football, going to show just a show of how much the situation has been affected, or the transport has been affected, because there is no other transport-related activity that is going on. Now they are just playing. They have improvised goalposts, and they have even brought about. They have contributed some small cash and purchased a football, and they are just playing around here.
That's interesting, that even in the state where things are quite sticky, that folks are finding an opportunity to have a little bit of fun. Are there people who are still waiting for vehicles? I mean, you've told us that even heavy commercial vehicles have parked, matatus have parked, buses have parked, and we also know Nakuru to be an intersector area where people are coming in and out, going up country and are going east. What are people actually waiting for hope that somebody will have a conversation and move things along, or have people resigned and gone back home? What's the case?
Well, we had a few passengers here in the morning, but the offices for the various transport circles were closed, and so they just gave up on having the matatus move. So at the moment, the terminus is empty. No passengers, no drivers, just a few matatus parked here because there is no hope of maybe resuming transport, maybe until later in the day. But of now, the passengers have resigned to fate. Most of them have moved back to their homes, and we are expecting that perhaps later in the day we shall be seeing some of them resuming business. But at the moment, I'm being told that at Free Area, which is along the Nairobi Nakuru highway, we have youth who are already there chanting and blocking the highway. So from here we'll be heading there to just give our listeners an update on exactly what is happening.
All right. Gashohi, thank you very much for that. Perhaps in a short while, we can then come back to you and then be able to get an update for that. But thanks, brother, for being able to share that with us. Let's come back to you in a bit. But of course, as you see it, you'll definitely let us know.
Thank you very much.
Asante. All right, so that's what is happening in Nakuru. And like I said, you can imagine everybody who moves in and out of Nakuru on an hourly basis, not just a Monday morning. All of that is at a standstill. People have parked and people are playing football at the terminus because nothing else is happening this morning. So that's what it looks like in Nakuru. We're going to skip over a little bit and we're going to come back into Nairobi. We're going to go up to Waiyaki Way, coming past Westland, and Musungu will tell us about what's going on there in just a bit. But we're also hearing, looking at your comments this morning and focusing, this would be the time for somebody in a position whereby a decision can be made about what could possibly happen to ease this burden should be talking. But the silence, just like the loud noise, speaks just as loudly. All right, so we'll come back to that thought in a bit. But Anne Musungu is on the line and will then be able to share a little bit about what's going on where she is this morning. She's on Waiyaki Way. Anne, good morning.
Good morning, Du.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm currently around Waiyaki Way, and the situation is dire.
What are we talking about here?
We can see lots and lots of people commuting to work. Most of these people going towards Westlands and its environs, and even some are going to town because they don't have any option to work. On our way here, we even saw some hope at the back of lorries just to save the distance. Earlier, we spoke to some commuters, and we can see the frustration. Most of them are trekking from Kangemi, Waruku, and even around Kawangware. And most of them are saying they started the journey as early as 5 a.m. in the morning. Yes, the matatus that are there, the commuters are saying the few matatus that are on the road, the prices are extremely crazy. So a distance that on a normal day is around 30 shillings, today has 30 or 20 shillings today has been exaggerated to around 100 plus shillings.
Wow.
Yes, this is simply as a result of the ongoing strike that is affecting the transport industry and the consumers of petroleum at large that was effective midnight.
So, Anne,
following the surge of,
okay, but you've said that there's still some people who are standing in that area. Now, this is a question that we've asked a lot of our other colleagues this morning, that there's still people who are in the area. What are they waiting for? Is there hope that some announcement will be made, that some vehicles will give up and come out later? What is the thing that's keeping people on the road at this point?
I think for most who cannot commute to their workstations, which are way far, they hope that at least the fare or the car prices might go a little bit down, so that they may be able to go with hopes that maybe this can be a one-day thing, and tomorrow things may go back to normal and resume their normal duties. Okay.
Another question, which may be a little bit political here. Are people making a connection as they see it there standing on the road? Because we're talking this morning and we are saying lower the fuel prices. There's nothing else here. Are people making a connection between high prices, a chance for leadership to talk here, and the reason why they cannot go to work? Is there a connection, or are people on the street just saying, look, we can't get a vehicle, let's do something about it? What's the conversation around here?
For most people around here, it's actually about the consideration that they really voted for the government, and this is what is happening to the common man on the ground. Some of them are very frustrated and they cannot wait for 2027 to vote again. They're just asking the president, why are you doing this? We voted, you say the fuel prices won't go up, and then we're seeing the common man. We've seen old women trek long distances, and they're very frustrated.
Well, I mean, and that is continuing. I know that, Anne, you're still there to then be able to talk to us about what's going on later, but thank you for this update. This is Anne Musungu. She is on Waiyaki Way in the Westlands area, and we're seeing people walking. We're seeing people waiting, but there's a lot that we're not hearing. Anne, thank you very much. We'll keep up with you later and find out what's going on. Be safe.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks. All right, so that's what it looks like there. I mean, taking a snapshot from there, we saw pictures from Kitangela earlier to then be able to see what the situation is, and then also heard from the CBD. We're coming out to Nakuru to see what's going on there. So, I mean, safe to say that around the country, the situation is the same. I heard from Ian Kitani earlier on, and he was on the Thika Superhighway. He was heading to another area, which should be bustling with activity on a Monday morning, but unfortunately is not. We'll see if we can hear from him in a short while, but for now, this is what it looks like around the country. It's a standstill. What is it that we're not hearing? That by now, should we have heard something? When on a Monday morning, the economists have already told us that in a couple of hours, when there's no movement in a country which depends on transport to push its economy, how much have you lost? And perhaps a conversation, or at least the communication, should have been made at this point. It doesn't seem to have been the case. Grace Nganga is on the Thika Superhighway. We're going to hear from her in just a little bit in terms of what's going on here. And she joins us. Grace, good morning. Perhaps we've just not yet connected with her. Hello, Grace. Good morning. Let's pick up which one is Grace here. Okay. Hello.
Hello. Good morning, it's Ramsula.
Oh, Ramsula, how are you?
I'm fine.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm at home and I just want to tell dear Mr. President, please act. I just like to request the President to act and listen to the cries of Kenyans. It's really unbearable. We can't live. We want to survive. Please, please act.
Please act.
And yes, so that's just what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rahimullah, for calling this morning. And that's it, basically. We're saying that, the prices must come down. Thank you for that. The prices should come down. There's no philosophical conversation here. It's not going to get political. That you need to move an economy. You need to have things in a position whereby people can afford to move. We're going to get into a quick update with Grace Nganga in a short while. She's on the Thika Superhighway to then be able to tell us what is going on there. We'll take her in as soon as we can. We're hearing from you this morning, and the conversation is not whether you vote for who or you vote for who. Lower the fuel prices today. Hello, Grace?
Me now?
Hello, yes, we can hear you now. Grace, good morning.
Good morning, my darling. We are walking.
Oh, are we walking?
Literally a walking nation.
How so?
I'm currently here at Jogoo Road, and if I tell you it's a walking nation, it is a walking nation. All matatus have been packed at various petrol stations. We were trying to see there were some matatus that were trying to make their way, but the crowd got a bit rowdy because it's all about solidarity when it comes to matters like this.
Yeah.
So it is all about walking. They are complaining a lot about the fuel prices. They're saying it does not make sense why our neighbors theirs is a bit lower than ours. They're really trying to understand why. And also they are saying that in terms of food prices and commodities are already skyrocketing because fuel is charges almost each and everything also the electricity bit has also increased by I think 4 shillings. So they're saying we are literally at a lower we're not at our best literally when it comes to the economy and also when it comes to fueling. So people have been working, others have not managed to go to work. They're complaining a lot. They are saying that their day has been disrupted. Others normally go take the commodities from one place to another. They're saying now for today they're just going to stay home and they're not going to have anything to take home for their kids because they have to take the commodities from one place to another. So it's really an ugly stare here from Jogoo Road, but we are still camping site to see more. But as I've said, there is literally no matatu on the road, no matatu, just private vehicles are the ones that are managing to cross through, but the roads are very clear, unusually clear. Someone may confuse Monday for Sunday,
Indeed. I mean, and Grace, where you are is a very, very ordinarily busy place. I mean, we give updates from Jogoo Road, and it's usually the place whereby there's a lot of traffic. So for that to be at a standstill is a crazy thing. And one of the things that you said earlier, and I think is interesting as well, is that people are walking. Where are people going?
People are walking. No, I'm telling you, it's literally a walking nation. Left, right, and center, people are walking. Others are saying that they're going to make their way to town. Others are saying that they're just walking to see, where are we heading? Where? Others are just saying, yeah, I'm just walking. I just want my day to pass so that I can go home because I don't know what I'm going to take to my kids. So literally, people are walking. Others are saying they're just walking to work. They have no otherwise. They have to try and get a fend for their families. It means walking. Others are saying they're standing in solidarity with the matatu sector. Others are saying they're standing in solidarity with the hustlers of the nation. They're saying that they're going to go to town and see where people are converging so that they can bring out a message to the president that these fuel prices need to be lowered. Others finding are also calling for the resignation of Energy Cabinet Secretary Opiyo Wanai, saying that he ought to have done better than this.
He could have communicated. And that's another thing that you keep bringing them out, Grace, that here is that folks are saying, well, this is okay, but there are folks who depend on a daily basis to then be able to get something to eat. So this, even with this going on, they can't remain at home. They must go out, see what they can find so that they can bring it back to their families. That's a reality for a lot of folks, is it not?
Exactly.
Grace,
but we are here on the ground now. And of course, we'll be updating your viewers anytime when you get any updates from our end.
Indeed, thank you very much. She's Grace Nganga. I call her Ganga, but thank you for being here and then being able to update us on that. Definitely then being able to keep up in touch with you as we go along. Thanks, my dear. That's what it looks like. And so the reality of this is driven home a lot further, just from what we're getting updates from Anne to Grace to Modachi to Ken in Nakuru, Ian, who was on the Thika Superhighway, Thika Road before that, and then Vera Mora, who was in Kitangela. The thing is that people have decided that they're not, if they are not going to be able to get the transport to go where they're going, beyond the brick and mortar of it, is that people have said we will walk. We will walk where we are going, and so that you can understand that the message that we're trying to send today is that you lower fuel prices. We can have a political conversation tomorrow. We can have a political conversation later. But the truth of the matter is that at this moment, in order to run things, we need you to lower the prices of fuel. The high fuel prices means that people cannot get where they want to go. It means that schools have shut down today. It means that learning is not happening. Hello? It means that people who need to go to hospital using a public service vehicle cannot do that. Hello? And so that it means that people who needed vital healthcare today may not be able to get that. So it may seem as though we are just talking about fuel prices, but it has a ripple effect on everything else that is going to happen. Just the same way when you raise fuel, that your unga is more expensive, your everything else that you need to do is more expensive. We're saying that today, you cripple the transport system, you cripple the economy, you cripple people. That's what you do. And the reason why this is crippled is because the prices are too high. You were at 190, and then you wake up the next morning and you're at 242. What are people supposed to do? The deafening silence that we're hearing from the quarters that should actually do something about it perhaps is a little bit more cause for concern, that there should have been a statement. Somebody should have said something. The way schools said last night that we're not going to open tomorrow perhaps is what we should have been hearing from the Ministry of Energy, who IPRA sits under, by the way, that this is the situation that we're probably going to be met with. Or did they imagine that the transport system, or that those who operate the transport system in the country were, joking, and that you were going to call their bluff? So what have we seen this morning, just in terms of an update for you, is that folks have said that we're going to walk. We're going to walk. Folks are walking from Jogo Road to the city. Folks are walking from the Thika Superhighway to the city. People are walking on Mombasa Road to then be able to do what? Two things. Number one, be in solidarity with others who said, are we going to send a message to the president? Or are we going to say, let's go and look for something that we can eat today? That's the reality that we're dealing with right now. And so across board, whether we're talking about people who are stranded, people who cannot, people have lost money today. People had to show up to do something today and have not been able to do that. But people are trying to go somewhere to then be able to get something so that they can be something. Dear Mr. President, the fuel prices are too high. This is not about what political side you're on. This is about a reality that affects everybody. It doesn't really matter where you are this morning, that the fuel prices are too high and Kenyans are willing you, even if it's going to be done from Baku, where you are at the moment, that people are willing you to have a conversation, and beyond a conversation, to do something about this situation, which is crippling everybody at this point. Some of us are sitting here and we're not even sure how we're going to go home today. People are not even sure how, and beyond that, people are not sure how they're going to get something to eat today. People are not sure how they're going to take their sick to hospital today. That there are people who should have been discharged today and will use a public service vehicle, but I can't do that today. And so you know what that does? Is that it gives them an extra day in hospital. Are they supposed to walk home? Are people supposed to walk to take their sick to hospital? People who depend on a daily bread situation every day, this has been compromised, and it's been compromised heavily. This is the real situation. Dear Mr. President, the fuel prices are too high. Dear Mr. President, the fuel prices are too high. Somebody can do something about it, and that somebody's you. The people who sit under your employ in an executive position as your cabinet, one of them being the Ministry of Energy, can do something about it. We've heard the solution that has been given. Oftentimes, there has been indictment on people who are who judge critically and say, well, you don't offer a solution. Well, there's a man who sits as the member of parliament for Ikiaro constituency, and he's given you a formula that you could actually enact today. You could do it today. But what stops you from doing that? And these are the questions that Kenyans are asking this morning. The nation is crippled. Look at all your comments that are coming in on socials today in the thousands. And what we're hearing from people today. This has to change. And perhaps this is a sign, if it comes now, that it doesn't look as though we'll have service vehicles on the roads today, and that we're probably going to have a later part of the day, which is a little bit more stressful for many people than the day has begun. And people are starting to ask questions about how they're going to get home and how they're going to do the basic things. People are asking questions about what they're going to eat today because they needed to move. People are asking questions about the normal 30, 40, 50 shillings that they pay will now become 130, 140, 150, 300. And what is going to be done about that today? Were you calling their bluff to imagine that they wouldn't get out into the streets? Well, that's where people are. And you have to ask the question and tell you, dear Mr. President, the fuel prices are too high.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.